Thanks, everyone. Yes, so I'm the relatively new now Chief Executive of ITS UK, joined around November last year. So I'm quickly going to cover a bit about who we are for those that don't know and what we're up to, and then talk about a specific project which we're launching today, which we're very excited to launch today, and is being supported by DFT and TTF. So a bit about us, if you don't know us. We've got 150 members from the public and private sector, covering everything in intelligent transport systems. And we've roughly sort of identified the value of the sector being 1.5 billion. I think that's a conservative estimate. I think that the sector's probably far bigger than that. And we may look to see how we can identify the economic benefits. But there's also an economic potential of about 15 billion for the UK economy. In particular, we've got a huge international reach. A lot of you may know about the European and World Congresses for ITS and the various different ITS organisations around the world. And we're plugged into them as the UK organisation and work very closely with our partners around the world. And particularly what the work we're going to be doing with TTF kind of feeds into that in terms of our international outlook. And a bit of a description of us, which you can read in the slide pack. But really, we're our aim over the next few years is really to represent the sector. And in particular, when I first joined, we asked our members what their number one priority was for us, and advocacy for the sector came up as the kind of key priority, and also thought leadership and developing policy positions. So you'll be seeing a lot more from us in that perspective. And as a little plug, if you are around on the 14th of June, we'll be in Parliament for our first parliamentary reception, so aiming to use that as kind of a launch for some of our advocacy work. And a bit wider on the other things we do in terms of we make connections and share intelligence, influence policy, as I've said, promote the sector overseas, which I'll be covering shortly, and celebrate the work of the sector in terms of what ITS organisations such as those in this room are doing. And our awards is always a must-attend event in November, which we'll be sharing news on soon. So, as I said, on our international engagement, we have MOUs with various organisations, various ITS organisations around the world, some of them listed here. And they basically are reciprocal arrangements where we help support the organisations there and the companies within their memberships, and they help support us. And they're very active in terms of what we do. In fact, on Friday this week, we have a delegation coming in from ITS Nigeria. We're working with partners at Arup on with a visit from a delegation from Australia. So there's a huge amount of activity going on. And of course, Lisbon, for those who are going, the ITS European Congress is in May. And we're also bidding for the World Congress to come to Birmingham in 2027. So hugely active in the international community. But when it comes to our international engagement, it's harder to prioritise where the UK ITS community sees as its kind of key markets and key countries overseas. And there's various questions that have come up in my first kind of 6 months at ITS UK. First, about how we prioritise our engagement. There's many ITS organisations around the world. How do we prioritise who we engage with? What our key markets are, kind of moving out that kind of taking a step back. Where does the UK ITS market see as kind of the big connections that it wants to make around the globe? How do we encourage more companies to export? And when I say export, it's both products and services here. We're a highly service-based industry as well. So it's important that we look at that. And how do we, and I say it's kind of a large we in terms of industry and government, best support the ITS market in the UK to engage internationally. And what I would say is, this is a really big government agenda. So in 2021, the government launched the Race to a Trillion, which is aiming to get exports to £1 trillion. I had a look just before this, and in February this year, we were at 837 billion. So we've got around 200 million or just under 200 billion to go. The export market is actually, there's a huge number of organisations exporting. We have about 262,000 companies in the UK that export. And that may sound like a lot, but that's 1 in 10 of all UK companies. So it's a really important market. The other thing is transport is actually a major export in its own right. And I think we see it as how we get around. We see it in a domestic point of view, but not only do we export things like cars and aircraft, but increasingly, we're exporting transport services, and it's actually the 4th highest export in terms of transport services out of all UK exports. So there's a huge amount of potential there. What we want to do is investigate the ITS section within that and see how ITS fits into that national and wider transport story. So, as I said today, we are launching an export study, and the first part of this is really a survey of members and the wider industry. You don't have to be an ITS UK member. And the big questions are, where are we currently exporting to? That's what we want to find out. What are our key markets? What is the size of the sector? If we aren't exporting, why not? And I would really emphasise that if you don't currently export as a business, and you are you've got various reasons why, we want you to answer the survey, because we want to understand why you're not. It might be that your product is UK specific, for example, which is understandable, but it'd be good to understand that. What our priority markets are, and what we can do to help support that. And what I would say is, I know there's a lot of public sector organisations in the room, and this is also, for public sector organisations too. Obviously, you're not interested in exports in the same way. You may be interested in encouraging companies to export, but you won't be an exporter in your own way. But what we want to hear from you is about international partnerships that you have, how you work with overseas colleagues, what you do to help support on ITS, and how they help to support you. And in terms of that, there's not really a survey, given that there's many different examples, but what I would say is speak to us, and we'd love to have sort of interviews and chats with you to try and understand how you work with overseas colleagues as well. So the key outcomes is really that we want to inform our activity, but also more importantly inform the government and the industry's activity, so that we know what are the key markets for the UK. And I would say, this will be a really valuable piece of work. The survey will have loads of insight as to what we can help do to support the ITS community, and we won't let it gather dust. We will be building on it. We will be looking at what we can do in terms of presence at congresses, at overseas exhibitions, trade missions, both inward and outward, and briefings for the market and other partners. We're working with other partners. So we're really keen to make sure that we use the study to basically improve and support the industry further. So very quickly, that is the survey link, surveymonkey.co.uk/r/ITS exports. Don't ask why there's an R in that. I couldn't seem to get rid of it, but R is there. So, but if you go to our website, which is its-uk.org, that's a lot easier to remember. It will be up there pretty much following this. And because everyone has QR codes nowadays, I thought I'd add a QR code too, so you can download it there. If you're a public sector organisation, as I say, please contact us, and we'll be going out to our members as well, those in our database, and saying, do get in touch because we want to speak to you. We'd love to hear what you're doing. The final thing I would say as well is alongside the survey, if you've got any good case studies or examples of work you're doing, we're keen to include that in the study as well. We want both quantitative and qualitative analysis of what the market's doing, and case studies work as a really good example. So do get in touch with us, and thank you very much.